All right, I'm going to close this night out.
Hey, boy.
So it's funny that you guys both have stories from south of the border. Mine is not. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. So, like I was saying earlier, recapping my weekend, I was in Ashton, Idaho. One of my good friends, her name is Willow. I may have shouted at her out before. But like any good single person would do when they travel, they spend a little bit of time on Tinder seeing who the local singles eligibles are in the area, you know?
Definitely.
I see
So
you.
she's swiping through, she's matching with dudes, and she matches with a one Harrison from Idaho. And this happens during the day, and they're talking throughout the day. And by the time we're telling scary stories at night, Willow is texting him, and she says, we're sharing scary stories. Do you have any? And he says, oh, do I have any scary stories? So they exchange numbers. She calls him, puts him on speakerphone.
Ooh, this is clutch.
Y'all
right
had
here.
a guess.
Yeah, so this was fun. This was especially
3
for me.
p.m. episode. Right?
Yeah.
Hey.
So as soon as she put him on speakerphone, I whipped out my phone, opened the voice memo app, hit record, and recorded the whole thing. And I listened to
Committed a crime.
listened to it twice on the way down back to Utah. This is what transpired that evening. So Harrison, who is, I believe, 24, is telling the story about his grandfather. And if you remember, Ashton and this whole area of Idaho, like most of Idaho, is open fields, potato farms, cattle ranches. There's not much in the ways of city. So a lot of the houses are very spread out. Your nearest neighbor is a mile down a dirt road, you know. So he comes from a family who lived in this area and had a farm and had livestock. This happened 40 years ago, so it's in 1980. Harrison's grandfather is tending the farm, and he is counting his livestock, and he notices that there is one sheep that is missing. Finds it a little strange, so he goes out in search of this sheep, and in the middle of the field, he finds it, and it's on the ground, laying down. He approaches it, and as he gets closer, he's pretty sure that this sheep is dead. Not sure how, got sick, or it was attacked, but he gets closer, and what he finds is on this sheep is burned in shapes and symbols on its side. And there's no way that this could have been a piece of debris or it was somebody's working. Somebody had to have burned and carved these shapes into the sheep. There's no natural way this could have happened. Finds it super strange, but what do you do in that situation?
GTFO.
Move.
Get on your horse and never come back.
So he takes the sheep, cleans it up, and carries out the rest of his day. This same thing happens multiple times. Not to his sheep, not just to his sheep, but to his horses as well. Once in a while, he would find a dead one out in the fields with these burned symbols and shapes. And every time, it was the same things burned into them. So they were all connected, and they had to have been the same person or people doing this to his livestock.
Mm-hmm.
That is aggressive.
Was it happening to anyone else or just his livestock?
As far as I know, just his livestock. He was asking, at this point, he was asking other people. So people were keeping their eye out, you know. So this had happened so many times that they started to go on watch.
Yep.
You know, a few of them would stay up during the night. They'd be packing, and they just keep a lookout. One night they're at home and they hear boom, boom, boom on their front door. They answer. It's one of their friends. And he says, "Follow me. We received a tip that the people who have been doing this are going to do it again tonight in this part of your farm."
Who's giving these
Dude,
tips?
that's a hot tip.
That's a very hot tip.
That's a hot tip.
They're like 8 stones away from the third post.
So, unfortunately, I don't have any more information on that. But I do have the rest of the story of them following that tip.
You're going to end the story.
Oh, no. Yeah.
No, you're good. I don't know where the tip came from.
Okay,
No, that's
okay,
fine.
okay. Yeah, yeah.
It's just a good ass tip.
Yeah, so
Oh,
it's
yeah.
already nighttime at this point, and they get their shotguns. Grandpa and a few others hop into the truck. They drive down the farm, and they get into this one area where it's fenced off, and it's pretty large, but they kind of spread out around the perimeter, and all of their animals have come back except for one, and they could see it in the middle of the field. They don't have any lights except for that of the full moon. You've been out on a night of full moon, especially where there's no light pollution, farm fields like this. It's pretty bright, for nighttime.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you can definitely see things. And it's farmland, so it's a lot of this is flat, especially in the area we were in, Ashton, flat. So they can see the horse in the middle of the fields. And they're communicating to each other to approach the horse. And the ideal scenario, I'd assume, is to just grab the horse, bring it back to the rest, and call it a night. But worst case scenario happens, of course.
Of course.
They're walking towards this horse, and as Harrison described it, told to him by his grandfather himself, nobody had approached this horse. Out of nowhere, figures stand up all around the horse. And he said that they couldn't see through them. They weren't really like spirits where you could see through. They're like translucent. They were silhouettes, but you couldn't make out any features or anything. He described it as it looked like a sheet was thrown over them, like how distinct the silhouette, the figure was. So at that point, they move a little closer and they start to open fire.
R.I.P. horse.
Yeah, I know, which was kind of crazy for me to think about, but
Seabiscuit.
either none of them hit or they hit and it did nothing. At nighttime, I don't think you could really see if it hit. You could just see if it, like the effect of it. You'd assume if it was hit, they would go down with it,
Hear it, maybe?
Yeah. But all that happens is the horse drops down to the ground and these shapes vanish into thin air. They run up to the horse. No gunshot wounds, just the same shapes burned into it. So that's the story of Harrison's grandpa. Nothing else really happened after that night. But there was a period in his farming lifetime where these shadows would visit him and terrorize him and kill his livestock one by one. And I'm not too sure why, the motives behind it, but for him to not have closure over that and not know why any of that happened, except that it just did, and he was a victim. I don't know if it was someone who knew him personally, was getting revenge, but it was just the most puzzling story to me.
I'm even more curious now where that tip came from.
Yeah, dude. Because if it is like a supernatural phenomenon,
Who would have known?
Yeah, it's like they're working with someone then.
Yeah.
They want it to be seen almost.
And it didn't happen anymore.
That's so puzzling, dude.
So they wanted to be seen on their last time.
Did they ever report on this? Did you know anything like that?
I don't know.
We should like do some hardcore sleuthing. Aiden, if you're listening.
Get out there.
Yeah.
Were they gray?
Were they gray? The figures?
Yeah.
They were black.
It's not the Grays.
Where's my phone?
It's the blacks.
The other thing that's puzzling to me, obviously, is the figures that were there and just disappeared. How everybody was circling, the area of the horse and moving in. They get there, no one.
So it's almost as if they
You
come up from the ground.
Haven't you seen that before? Don't you know what I'm talking about?
So it's almost like they come straight up from the ground.
Underground tunnels.
Tremors.
Tremors. Damn. Okay. That was a story of Harrison's grandfather. Almost 40 years later. Harrison's arrived on this earth. He's 16 years old. This happens 8 years ago. He hears talk of a Native American burial ground south of where they're at, in between Idaho Falls and Pocatello, which we've all been to or been through.
Damn it, Harrison. Do the right thing and stay away.
He's got to find out for science.
For 3 a.m. for us. And for the sake of this podcast, he visits this graveyard. The story of which I will share in the next episode.
Damn it. You bastardo.
No, it's a fun story, so I'm excited to share it. So
Guess you guys will have to keep on listening.
Yeah, if you want to hear the end of this story.
guess so.
Awesome. I had fun tonight.